Let's bring in Democratic Congressman Jim Himes of Connecticut. He, of course, the ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee. Welcome, Congressman. Let me quickly start on the reaction you have to news of John Bolton's guilty plea. Again, a reminder, sir, that he's going to have a fine of $2.25 million. And he faces up to 60 months in jail or prison for his actions.
Yeah, Alex, one of the challenges of this administration is that so many prosecutions have been attempted for obviously partisan and political things. I mean, you were talking about Todd Blanche. This is the guy who re-indicted James Comey for taking a photograph of a bunch of seashells on a beach that said 8647. Like so many of these cases, that one will be thrown out. I'm not going to get into details, but I'm going to tell you that in this instance, John Bolton pleading guilty, first of all, that tells you that there was a there. And secondly, though I'm not going to get into details, based on the information I have, I do believe that John Bolton actually very substantially mishandled classified information. So this is going to be one of those instances where we can, ask how this guy's going to be treated relative to General Petraeus. But in this case, there was, in my opinion, some pretty significant mishandling of classified information.
All right, well, let's circle back to Todd Blanche's nomination. In the middle of this fight over the anti-weaponization fund, you have multiple Republican senators who say they are not satisfied with Blanche's claim, merely in words, that this fund is dead. Take a listen.
I just think it's bad. It's bad optics for the president. It's bad optics for Republicans in its current form. We got to either eliminate it, streamline it, guardrail it. It can't go in its current form. And if that's the only choice we should have, we should eradicate it.
I want to make sure it's not mostly dead. I want to make sure it's completely dead.
Again, they're going to have to take Blanche's word for it because there's nothing in writing to support this. But given all these concerns, do you expect Republican senators to vote against Blanche when push comes to shove?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to climb into the head of a Republican senator who isn't Tom Tillis or Bill Cassidy, two guys who no longer need to fear the wrath of Donald Trump. I have no idea how the Senate vote is going to go. What I can tell you is that this fund that was designed to provide payouts arguably to people who attacked police officers and defecated in the halls of Congress and tried to find people to hang on January 6th, this is the kind of thing that is rightly beyond politically toxic. So what the Congress needs to do is not just, take Todd Blanche's word for it, but to actually pass legislation forbidding the use of 1 penny for that fund. If I'm sounding a little personal about this, that's because I was one of the last people out of the chamber on January 6, 2020. I saw these people up close and personal. And no matter what the president says about how they were patriots or friends of his or peaceful visitors, they were not. They were insurrectionists. They never should have been pardoned by the president of the United States. And of course, there's not a single penny of taxpayer dollars that should find their way to that group of people.
Well, Congressman, it is not just the weaponization fund that the president has his hand in. Blanche has made it perfectly clear that this DOJ is Trump's DOJ. Take a listen.
We have thousands of ongoing investigations and prosecutions going on in this country right now. And it is true that some of them involve men, women, and entities that the president in the past has had issues with and that believe should be investigated. That is his right, and indeed it is his duty to do that.
What can Democrats do to ensure the DOJ does not become even more of an arm of the president's vendetta machine? And what damage has been done to the DOJ's reputation as an independent entity free of political influence?
Well, I'll tell you, a pretty good first step would be to play that last 10 seconds of Todd Blanche saying that the president has the right and, in fact, the duty to direct the Department of Justice to prosecute his opponents. I mean, any non-terrified Republican and every single Democrat should look at that, because for generations now, the idea has always been that the Department of Justice, with its power to destroy American lives just through an investigation, forget about a prosecution, has to be independent. It cannot be used as the tool, a political tool of the president. And there's Todd Blanche, nominated to be Attorney General, saying, no, it's the political tool of the president. And we know that that's what he's doing. Again, back to what I pointed out at the start of this interview, this guy decided to prosecute Jim Comey for taking a photograph of a bunch of seashells, which might be interpreted as being angry at the president of the United States. And look, let me take it to my world right now, because in my world, intelligence, this president nominated as acting director of national intelligence Bill Pulte. right? Bill Pulte, who has precisely zero national security or intelligence experience, but has distinguished himself for using his sort of esoteric and bizarre office atop an agency that no American has ever heard of, the FHFA, to go after Adam Schiff, to go after Letitia James, to go after a governor of the Federal Reserve Board. What we're seeing here is an absolute 100% priority put on people who will prosecute the president's enemies. This is the kind of stuff that we expected in Bolivia in 1965, not in the United States of America in the 21st century.
Couple questions there, because isn't it a law that the person who serves in this kind of a role must have some sort of intelligence experience? And also, your counterpart on the Senate Intelligence Committee, Senator Mark Warner, is urging Senate Majority Leader John Thune to get Trump to revoke Pulte's appointment, saying Democrats could tank a spy powers deal. If not, would you support that move?
Yeah. I mean, you're right in pointing out, Alex, the statute which establishes the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. I'm sort of chuckling because the law shouldn't need to say that the most important intelligence official in the United States of America at a moment in time when the Iranians would like to orchestrate terrorist attacks against us, when Russia is doing all they can to sort of go after us. Yeah, the law does happen to say that this person should have some national security experience. But again, duh. Now, how much emphasis are you going to put on the law in an administration that doesn't care about the law? That's a whole other question. But look, Mark Warner is right, and I've been talking to him. Quite apart from the insanity of this appointment, the timing, at a moment in time when we're working really hard to reauthorize a controversial collection authority, FISA 702, they couldn't have picked a worse person or a worse time to make this nomination, because it has now jeopardized the single most important collection authority we have to keep us safe from terrorists and cartel members and that sort of thing.
All right, Congressman Jim Himes, thank you so much for the conversation. Appreciate that.